I'm fat, I'm old, I'm ugly, no one's gonna love me, I'm gonna be single forever. You gotta cut that shit out. Your girl didn't go to university. Your girl didn't grow up in a household that was sunshine and rainbows and filled with love and all this great stuff and butterflies and rainbows. No, your girl was self-made. We can't create the life and the body of our dreams from a place of lack or, quite honestly, the old way that we're used to doing things. Welcome to Boss Bitch Radio. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be sharing some personal stories with you. And also, I've got 11 prompts at the end of this podcast that are going to shake you up and out of your current situation and hopefully bring you to a new awareness. So if you're new here, welcome. I'm Diane Flores, and this podcast is almost 4 years old. And for those that have been here since the beginning, you know it has evolved and changed. And while I grow, evolve, and change and invest in my own self-improvement, self-care, and education, it has turned into quite a body of work, and I'm very, very, very proud of it. I mean, it definitely has had some ebbs and flows with creative slumps, but nonetheless, something that's on my heart lately has been swirling in my head because I work one-on-one with a handful of clients, and these clients are high-achieving CEOs, business owners, and they are just really getting shit done. They're shaking shit up in their own regards in their lives. And I'm very honored that a lot of them have found me through this podcast and reached out, and they're making some big moves in their lives. And we had to dig through some really deep layers of self-limiting beliefs when it came to them being successful with their fitness. And I put them through some questions and some homework, and I will oftentimes send them some videos or books that I want them to read. And it's really an act of changing their mindset around who they are or who they were and who they want to become, right? And what I found for myself personally is that my fitness has become quite the productivity hack. And I'm going to go deeper on that in a future episode. But what I've noticed is these women that come to me are generally struggling with their fitness. And once we tie it all together, their business moves to the next level. And I've seen this with myself too. So today is going to be a collective of sharing with you some of those strategies, but really what I hope you stick around for after I get through some of the meat and potatoes is I've got 11 questions that I want you to sit with. Ideally, bust out your journal and really get honest with yourself about if you find that you struggle with sticking to any kind of program, fitness routine, or even if there is something that you've been desiring in your life and you've bought a course or a workshop or something and you can't just seem to get the footing to actually make the changes that you want to make in your life. So before we start there, I want to revisit a little bit of my story so you can see how this has worked for me and how it is entirely possible for you as well. Okay. Now, when I was 16 years old, let's be a little more precise here because I had to do the math, 16 years, 11 months, and 4 days old, I found out that I was pregnant. Now, I had my odds stacked against me at that very moment. Being a child who is a teen mom, being pregnant at, 16 years old, barely still a child myself, was literally paved the way for some of the hardest things I had to experience in my life. Now, that was the moment that I realized that I was no longer a child. I can remember certain things incredibly vividly. And I do remember being there and seeing that pregnancy test read positive. And I realized my needs are going to take a backseat because I am now producing a life, and every decision I make at this moment is going to not only be for myself, but that of my unborn child. So I realized very quickly that I was in for quite a journey. I had a lot ahead of myself in terms of just life, right? Like figuring out life and growing into an adult, and then also figuring out what the hell I was going to do, bringing a baby into this world with no means to actually support this child. So from that moment on, I feel like my life became a sequence of events that continued to challenge me in ways that I could never imagine, right? And essentially, I'm going to give you the short version, and I have a longer episode if you want to go back deep in the creep. I think it's like my second episode on becoming a boss bitch. I probably should go back and re-listen to that. It's, I'm sure, a little bit cringy, but from that moment, it was very apparent to me that I was going to have to work harder than the average person to actually get my life to a point where I wanted it. As a younger teen, I had goals and aspirations and dreams of things that I wanted to do and become. And very quickly, that was going to be a challenge in ways I couldn't even imagine. Now, to make my life even more difficult, what followed for several years was a sort of chain of events that honestly made life even more challenging. I got pregnant again, and I had 2 children by the time I was 19 years old. Now, still a child, raising children and trying to figure my life out. I was broke, poor, not even broke, poor. I had nothing to my name. Obviously, I was living with my parents. I had 2 small children. The father of my children had, kind of a random job where he was making minimum wage, and we weren't set up for success by any means. I was on every form of government assistance. I was getting grocery vouchers here that we call WIC. And eventually I was in the projects. I was in government housing for some years, and it was incredibly helpful. It was something that at the time, was so embarrassed about. And now I look back and I'm grateful for those things. It helped me get on my feet and really make decisions that would improve my life from there, right? It gave me like at least some kind of base for financial support. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. What fueled me for the success that I feel like I've acquired and achieved now was probably not something that I would suggest to most people now. Back then, young, naive, and what fueled me to make change was the judgments and the perceptions of others. Something I probably have not spoke about on the podcast is my father didn't speak to me the entire time I was pregnant with my son. I lived in his household. I saw him every day. When I became pregnant, he immediately kind of shunned me, right? He didn't speak to me, and that was incredibly difficult. And my uncles were obnoxious about it, and they made really awful comments to me. I had people in the grocery store muttering things under their breath. And it was just overall a very difficult time. It was embarrassing. And all I knew is I wanted to get out of that feeling. And so the haters fueled my trajectory in making some change in my life. And it wasn't easy. It was definitely a matter of me feeling like I need to prove them wrong. And in that process, let me tell you, girl, I evolved many times. And there's been some other things that have come up in my life that have popped up as hurdles or roadblocks. And a lot of people would have folded under that pressure. And I just kept going. Now, while I can sit here and tell you the tactics and the strategies that I took to go from a broke teen mom who was overweight and depressed and really felt like there was no light at the end of the tunnel to now running an almost 7-figure fitness business, which is a lot of mostly online and a fitness studio, right? If you would have told me this almost 30 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. I would have said, like, there's no way in hell that's going to happen, right? While I can give you the tactics and strategies, it's really going to it does you no service, because at the end of the day, It isn't like, oh, follow these 7 steps to financial freedom or achieving success or finding the body of your dreams. The most important thing that had to happen, and at the time, I didn't realize I was happening. I realized this probably in my mid-20s, is that I had to change who I was. And the only way that I could change who I was by changing my thoughts and my behaviors and my habits that were keeping me stuck. And that was the only thing that was going to get me to become who I wanted to be. Now, I'm going to fast forward a little bit because one thing that I know has been very difficult for a lot of women that come into contact with us and coaching and whatnot is putting themselves as a priority. And I like to think of this as self-care. You are caring for yourself by putting yourself as a priority. Now, I go into waves where I'm really great at this, and sometimes I backslide a little bit. But the reality of it is that when I'm in a flow or a season where self-care is a priority, I do a lot more introspection. I kind of go within and I allow myself to really dream big. And I don't let the voices of the haters from my past creep up or my own self-limiting beliefs, right? And I mention self-limiting beliefs a lot in the podcast because there is a lot of validity to that. In order to become the next level of yourself, you oftentimes have to kill off a lot of the old beliefs that you've had about yourself in the previous version of yourself in order to embody that new way of being, quite frankly. Now, I did a podcast interview a few weeks ago with Kyra Casey, and I know I tore her name up on the podcast, so my apologies for that. But she was a little bit newer to my world, and sometimes that shit happens. But that interview was incredibly transformative. And it wasn't to say that interview was transformative in the way that I was hearing things I'd never heard before. It was really, it landed at the right time, at the right moment that I needed to really receive that information. And it gave me sort of the rocket fuel boost that I wanted to bring more of these conversations to the podcast. Because while I can sit here and give you all the tools, tactics, strategies, roadmaps, and blueprints for your best body, it doesn't fucking matter if your mind is not where it needs to be for you to actually make that transformation. So when I talk about some of the best books or mentors and or courses and things that I've taken, most of them have absolutely nothing to do with health and fitness. They have to do with mindset, the way that I handle things, the way that I lay out, the path for myself and actually follow through with believing in myself. And that can be difficult. And I know a lot of our work as coaches in the online space is really getting women to believe in themselves because we believe in them. And I know that has been incredibly transformative for myself. So some things that have really evolved from digging deep into changing my story has been journaling, right? Some introspective journaling, manifesting, really speaking as if some of these things that I want to achieve have already happened. Laying in bed and visualizing what it looks like for me to live a certain lifestyle, to achieve a certain goal. All of those things I was doing without realizing that I was putting that into motion, and it does some amazing things for your brain chemistry. Now, I have created my own personal mission statement, and this is something that evolves, it changes and I encourage you to sit down, maybe use my mission statement as inspiration for you to create your own mission statement for you, for yourself, the person that is in charge of creating the life and or the body of your dreams. Whatever your desires are, you are in the driver's seat, and we have much more control than we think we do. So I know that it's taken me some time to step into the fact that my work here on this world is to step into my power and to be seen, right? I spent so many years hiding and staying in the shadows and being an introvert, and which is a superpower in its own right, but allowing that to hold me back from really chasing some goals and dreams that I had, because I would feel like, who the hell do I think I am, right? And here's where the story would come in. I'm just this pregnant teen mom that was broken on welfare, and this is the mindset I'm trying to create abundance from. And can you see how that it isn't going to work, right? Can you see how carrying the thoughts of the old stories of who you used to be, or who maybe you even think you are now, aren't going to serve you in creating a new path for yourself, a new destiny? Now, I am not fearful to show up as myself. That was something that took many, many years to conquer. Lots of therapy, lots of journaling, lots of doing a lot of the work that I'm going to share with you at the end of this podcast. And really, I feel and strongly believe that a lot of my success with my business has been because my business has constantly been an extension of who I am, right? Who I am being, who I am showing up as in the world. I find that if I try to force something that I'm no longer resonating with or interested in or passionate about, is not only a disservice to myself and my soul and my creativity, it is a disservice to the humans that show up to really listen to what it is that I have to say. So I don't do that anymore. I show up authentically, transparently, myself, sometimes messy, and sometimes just like today, where I'm really sharing from my soul, my heart and soul, as to what I feel my audience needs to hear from me today. And hopefully that's you. Now, let's move on to my personal mission statement. Now, when you write this, and you sit down and you really pour everything out on paper, be prepared to have resistance come up. The voices are going to come up. They're going to say, who do you think you are? Okay, this is silly. This is cheesy. This is corny. This doesn't work. I encourage you and invite you to stop those thoughts dead in their tracks and do the damn thing anyway. Now, moving on. My personal mission statement. Here we go. I'm a badass rebel with a cause, breaking free from every self-imposed limitation. I define my own success, I pave my own path, and I inspire others to unleash their inner warriors. I trust my intuition, and I am not here to do anything small, but I am here to raise the collective consciousness in other women and humans that have come across my path. I speak and share from a place of knowing who I am and wanting to impact at the highest level. I own my uniqueness, and I'm here to innovate and live on purpose. Live and living are verbs, which means taking action and being in my life. I am creating my reality. My thoughts are energy. And if I am thinking the same negative thoughts daily, how can I create a new reality with that energy? Now, this is wordy, this is lengthy, and this works for me. And this empowers me to wake up and feel compelled to share the wisdom that I've acquired over the years in overcoming some of the hardest things, right? Being a teen mom, being broke, being on all forms of government assistance, getting married, having a tumultuous marriage with a husband that had multiple affairs, and getting divorced and living on my own and raising 3 children by myself, right? All of these things come with lessons, and my job is to share the lessons and strategies so someone else doesn't need to go through that shit, right? I've done this. Here's what I've learned. Maybe this will give you some insight, and it'll keep you from doing some of the things that have caused a lot of pain and some suffering, and obviously financial struggles, as well as professional and personal struggles. So if I can impart that on someone and they feel empowered to not make some of the same decisions, my work here is done. It's working. It's working. Now let's jump into the juicy stuff. Here's some things that I've noticed about myself, and this may resonate with you, and ways that I used to be, right? And things that I used to lead with, which were a lot of negative thoughts. Negative thoughts will enter my brain and they will often repeat themselves. There is validity to the fact that when you wake up, you're repeating the same, I think it's 80% of the same thoughts you had the day before. We got to make those thoughts good ones, because if they're not, you're creating a reality in which your thoughts are shaping your future. And if they're constantly negative thoughts and self-defeating thoughts and thoughts of lack, what do you think you are going to bring into your life? You're calling that into your life. Your brain is living in that space. It is very difficult to create change in an environment in your head that doesn't believe it and is living in a past story of you. So thoughts like I'm tired, I'm broke, I'm depressed, sad, mad, overwhelmed, I'm fat, I suck, I'm, all these things. I am not excluded from having these thoughts. I have had these thoughts. I've had these thoughts for longer than I would care to admit. But here's where the rubber meets the road. When these thoughts start to enter my mind, I become very aware of them. And that is the first step. A lot of times we don't even realize we're thinking the same thoughts. We're having the same negative emotions because of the thoughts that we're ruminating on. But the moment that I can become aware, I notice immediately how it affects my mood, right? Think about it. You're thinking about how broke you are. You can't pay your bills, or you're depressed, or you woke up and, you got on the scale and you're fat. And now all day you're in a bad mood because you feel like you're fat. And this is the story you're going to tell yourself. And all the decisions you make for the day are based around that foundation that you started your day with. And a day has gone and wasted on negative energy and holding you back from doing certain things because this thought keeps swirling in there, right? So when I have these thoughts, because listen, I'm human, I'm not perfect. Some things still come up in different ways, shapes, and forms, and sometimes I don't even expect them. But the first thing I ask myself is, does this thought serve me to my greatest good? Is this thought serving my higher purpose? Is this making me a more productive person today? Or is this keeping me playing small and being a victim? Now, the third thing, so the first thing that happens is negative thought enters the brain, right? Second thing is I become very aware of it and I'm conscious of it and I ask myself those questions. What good is this thought serving me? Then the third thing, and this is where the magic is for me. Now, these might not work for you, but I'm going to give you some what I call pattern interrupts. It interrupts the pattern of negative thinking. Now, my pattern interrupts. Number one, I repeat to myself, change the thought. Oftentimes it sounds like this. Nope, bitch, change the thought. Okay. This is how I talk to myself. You don't have to call yourself a bitch, but it works for me. The other thing, I have a few in my back pocket. The other mantra or phrase that I use to interrupt the pattern of negative thinking is I say, cancel that. Cancel that, cancel that. We're not putting that into the universe. Particularly if I say something out loud, right? For example, I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. These things that you repeatedly tell yourself and say out loud, those are the things that I say too, right? And when I say them out loud, whether I'm on a phone call with a family member, a friend, somebody I love, and we're discussing like, how are you, blah, 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 the whole thing. If I say I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, cancel that. I say cancel that and I reframe it. And for something like I'm overwhelmed, a reframe would be, I have a lot on my plate right now and I'm handling it. I'm handling it in a way that feels fun for me. Fun for me might mean maybe I do have a lot on my plate, but how can I make it fun? Because if I'm not having fun in my business and my life, it's not fucking worth it. Okay. It's just not. Life is too short. And I've seen people's lives get taken away way too soon. And I'm really at that age where I refuse to allow that to be my reality anymore. And then the third thing that I pull out sometimes when I get into this self-talk or slipping into old self-limiting beliefs is, can I find ways that this is not true? And that might be a little bit harder to wrap your head around, but let's just use the I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm depressed as an example. Can I find ways that this is not true? Well, what is going on in my life that isn't sad, that doesn't make me sad, that isn't making me feel depressed? Is it I have a pedicure scheduled? That's going to be something I look forward to. Is it if I'm feeling sad, can I snuggle with my cat on the couch? And that makes me feel good. It makes me feel happy. Can I do something to switch that feeling right now? Can I get on a phone call with somebody I love and ask them how they're doing? Be interested instead of worrying about being interesting, and being a good listener. And how can I be there for someone else? It might feel like you can't. It might feel like you don't have the wherewithal within you to be there for someone else. But I'm going to tell you that in all the times when I've been struggling to get out of my own head, and maybe I'm unmotivated, or I feel like I don't have anything to talk about, or, what good do I serve here? I go be of service to somebody who might need me, my child, my friends, things of that nature. Really put you in a place of service, and it feels so fucking good. Now, why does this shit matter? Because when you can change the thoughts that are swirling and swimming around in your head, you can change your mood. Think about this, right? If you wake up, let's just reverse engineer this process a little bit, okay? You wake up, you're thinking the same thoughts that you did the day before. Stressful thoughts, negative thoughts, ruminating about everything you need to do that you don't want to do and that you hate, or the things that you don't have, or the money that's not there, or the body you don't have. And you're constantly living in that. What kind of mood are you in? It's probably not a good one. It's probably not one that's excited to get up and go to the gym, or get up and work on that side hustle, or get up and be present with whatever humans you're in contact with during the day. So you have a shitty mood. Now, when your mood is constantly shitty because of the bad, negative, swirling thoughts that constantly are swimming around in your head, and I'm speaking to myself, okay, when they're in my head, when they've been in my head, my attitude then becomes my personality, right? The mood, the thoughts then become the attitude, and the attitude then becomes your personality. I'd wonder why nobody wanted to hang out with me. Why was nobody wanting to be in my presence? Because oftentimes I would get into these stuck patterns of repeating negative, self-limiting beliefs and thoughts, and ruminating on the stressors rather than changing my thoughts about them, doing something about them. Because when I'm stuck in these thought patterns, I get stuck in taking action and doing the things that I need to do to get out of those thoughts. So you just sit in this swamp of negative thoughts that then produce all of this just overall negativity and keeping people stuck, keeping myself stuck. I was there for many years. Now, I know you might be thinking, Diane, it's easy for you to say, you've done this, you've been there. I have witnessed this in so many of my clients over the years. And I've been doing this for almost 20 years. And it takes work. I'm not going to tell you this is easy. You're used to interacting with yourself in the same way every day, and you form the same patterns and the same habits, and you drive to work the same way, and you drink your coffee the same way, and you tend to just fall into day-to-day habits. And it would make sense that your thoughts also fall into this same kind of habitual pattern. I'm going to share with you some of the things that I did that are more tactical that helped me break out of negative thinking spirals and really changed my life. I can't even express to you how much my life has changed from the 16-year-old teenage mom, okay? Now, some of these things are going to be a little difficult for some of us to grasp. or to resonate with, and that's okay. I'm not for everybody. So I want you to take what resonates with you, and also the things that don't resonate with you. I think it's a really good point to reflect on that. Like, why doesn't that resonate with you? What is that triggering for you? Now, the first one, and probably one of the most important things I had to do in order to change my story, to change my journey, to go from broke to living a life that I love and I'm excited about every single day, that monetarily provides me with a great life, as well as sharing that with, having a great team and employees and being able to do things with my family and my children that I once dreamt of and thought was never possible, is I spent less time with people who didn't vibrate at the energy that I was trying to get to. So that meant I had to spend less time with certain family members. There were certain people in my family that I was spending time with, very, very close ones, immediate family members that I loved, but I also knew that their negative attitudes, their negative beliefs and perceptions, and their thoughts around money and lack, if I stayed in that environment, it's going to make it damn near impossible for me to change my mindset about what was possible. Okay. So your tribe, who you spend the most time with, I'm talking from your home life to your friendship circle to your work vibe. Do an audit. You can probably do that real quick and write shit down. Who in your immediate circle, the closest 5 people you spend the most time with? Now, this does not mean by choice. This can also mean by default of your work environment. What are their beliefs? What are the things you hear them saying? How do they speak about their goals and abundance and life and wealth? Is it negative? Is it the glass is half full? That is poison. That is poison. I have had to end friendships and get out of certain situations in working environments or, collaborations. I've even had to let go of employees who were like a bad seed that we did not need on the team because of their inability to have an awareness around the things that they were saying and doing and how it affected the rest of the team. So that's the first thing. And that's what I went on about because it's important. The second thing is anytime I want to level up, anytime I need to go to that next level in my life. Now, this has happened to me multiple times. My business has evolved. It has changed. And every time I've got to that spot where it needs to kind of move to that next level, it's fucking uncomfortable. Okay. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. I have resistance and oftentimes I'm internally kicking and screaming, and that usually is an indication to me that I got to fucking take some action. Now, one of the things that I use as a sort of roadmap that I end up creating myself is I ask myself, how does the person I want to become act? How do they think? How do they feel? Where are the places that they go? What are they focusing on? What are they prioritizing? How are they showing up in the world? Where do they invest their time, their money, their energy? Think about that. In order to become the person you want to become, you are going to have to change things about the person you are now. There is no way around it. I could not have got to where I'm at now. I could not have became an IFBB pro and got my pro card thinking like the pregnant teen mom that I was at one point. There's no way. I had to start doing, acting, behaving as if I had already achieved that goal. Even if you don't know how, you need to get resourceful. You need to do research. You need to look to those that you admire. What kind of things are they doing? What are they investing in? What are they talking about? What are they reading? What are they feeding their brains? We can't change in the environment that our old us is stuck in. It's damn near impossible. The third thing is I stopped the broke talk or the old talk that was coming out of my mouth, right? So whether it's true or not, if there was something I wanted, but I could not yet afford, I would not use the words, well, I can't do that. I'm broke. I don't have enough money. Even if it was true, I did not speak that shit into the universe. I would reframe that and it would become, I'm going to find a way to be able to afford that. What can I do to make this a reality for myself and put possibility into my sphere and my thoughts and my being instead of what I don't have and always living in lack and, oh, well, this person has more than me and this and that. Girl, I've been there. I've done that and nothing good comes from that, right? I'm fat. I'm old. I'm ugly. No one's going to love me. I'm going to be single forever. You got to cut that shit out. Okay. The more you say this to yourself and you say it out loud, you are creating your reality. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I was doing it time and time again. For example, one area that I struggled with for a very long time was my relationships, right? And getting into the wrong relationships and playing the victim and ignoring red flags and things of that nature. And one of the things I had to do was stop saying things out loud that affirmed what was going on and speaking things that gave me hope and really steered me to make different decisions. Okay, I know this is lengthy, but y'all, I'm on fire right now. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. The fourth thing, I had to change the way that I viewed success, and I didn't give up when it was hard. So success is not going to look the same for everyone. It's not going to typically follow a linear path. It is going to have bumps and bruises and speed bumps and throwing you off track. And you will have those moments of like, this isn't working. Who do I think I am? Right? All that shit will come flooding in when things aren't working out the way that you think they're supposed to. The key is you keep going, you keep your head down, you stay focused, and you keep showing up and doing the things that you need to do to achieve the goal that you want. Taking those baby steps is imperative. It's not like you just wake up and decide one day, I'm going to get healthy, and it happens with a snap of the fingers. Lots of stuff has to change. The old you, she ain't dead yet. She's going to carry some of those old bad habits into the path of trying to become the new you. And it is up to you to become conscious of those things as they come up and change them. The fifth thing that I had to do in order to change who I was from the 16-year-old teen mom to boss bitch now is I believed I could, even when I did not have evidence that it was working. Okay. And the reason why is because I saw other people that were doing it. If there were other people that were doing the things that I wanted to do, there was no reason why I couldn't do them as well, or I couldn't achieve them as well. So I would continue to take action in spite of maybe not believing it wholeheartedly at the time, but having faith, and also taking action in spite of being fearful, right? And fear is going to show up. It's going to stop you. It's going to hold you back. It's going to tell you you can't do these things, and you're going to need to rewrite that story. It's really the only way you're going to move through something and out on the other side is you have to do that. You have to do that work. There's no way around it. The sixth thing that I did in order to achieve success with body and life is I became hyper fixated, some could say obsessed / passionate, on spending my free time on learning things that I wanted to get good at. I could not expect to become who I wanted to become with the tools I had in the toolbox of being a 16-year-old broke teen mom. That don't work that way. Okay? It doesn't work that way. You can't take those tools and strategies and think that that is going to work to create the new you. You need to really dive into as much as you can and saturate your brain with the information so you can start creating from a place of possibility and not a place of, well, I don't know how that's going to happen. That won't work for me. Some early mentors that I started to really dive into when it came to mindset and business and really leading with authenticity were Marie Forleo and Danielle Laporte, two very high achieving women in the business mindset life space. And I really just resonated with their message. And so I absorbed and listened to anything and everything I could possibly fucking find. I did the exercises they recommended. If they suggested journaling, I did the journaling. If they suggested other books, I would read other books. If they suggested certain workshops or master classes, I would invest in those things and surround myself with not only the energy for creation and changing my life, but also the other people who also were doing the same thing. It was very different than the circle of friends that I had or the coworkers, if we're talking early on. And it really forced me to think on a higher level and honestly level up. The seventh thing, which I have already alluded to a little bit, is I invested my time and my money in acquiring the skills and strategies to improve my life. And that became a passion. I became passionate about changing my life. And in the process of changing my life, my body, my health, I was hell-bent on being able to teach women how to do the same thing, because your girl didn't go to university. Your girl didn't grow up in a household that was sunshine and rainbows and filled with love and all this great stuff and butterflies and rainbows. No, your girl was self-made. And so the way that I was improving my life was becoming passionate about learning and knowing that there are so many opportunities out there for change. And I couldn't stay stuck and small-minded if I really wanted to change the history of my future, quite frankly. Now that looked like I mentioned, courses, workshops, coaching calls, masterclasses, hiring mentors, hiring coaches, certifications, all of these things over the course of years, almost 20 years now, has helped in unlocking a new level of confidence, in showing me that I can do something. I can believe in myself. I can do things that even though I can't envision them or understand what that feels like because I have yet to experience it, I knew that it was possible. And it was almost like I was already feeling the feeling because I had so much possibility in knowing that it was indeed something I could create for myself. Now, I knew that if I could do it, I could teach women how to do it as well. So all of this time and money I've spent well over six figures in the last 20 years in self-improvement. And it has 1,000% been worth it. There have most certainly been certain courses or workshops or certifications that I've done or taken that maybe weren't incredibly as useful as I thought they were going to be, but there was always a lesson that came out of them, or I met somebody in that journey that connected me with another person or another thing or another course that made more sense. And all of it worked harmoniously to get me to where I'm at today. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is a practice. There are some days I wake up and I don't feel like a bad bitch. Okay. This happens. It's normal. I'm a human. I have the human condition. But I will say that those days are a lot less frequent than they used to be even a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, right? It come to a point where that is the minority of how I operate in my life now. Okay. There's been days I've been very checked out of the thoughts that I have going on in my head. I'm not really present with them. I'm on autopilot, and then I'll snap out of it. And that's totally normal. But I know that if I take time to sit down with myself and my thoughts in a quiet space, or I go for a walk and I listen to something with no words. I listen to 8D audio. If you have never heard of that, it's great. It's just a lot of sound frequencies and it's very awesome to just walk and listen to and think. I have to give myself thinking time. If you aren't giving yourself thinking time, you are living in autopilot. And I want you to get off autopilot. I want you to get off of the back burner. And I want you to be present in creating your life and not just letting life happen to you. So I'm going to give you a series of questions. And I would encourage you to come back to this podcast with your journal and take some time to answer each and every one of these questions. I literally came up with them. I was journaling this morning on this topic, and this podcast is straight from my journal. I'm literally reading it from my journal because that's oftentimes some of my best podcasts. So here we go. These are your questions. These are your journal questions, 11 of them. The first one, where in my life am I playing small? Where in my life am I playing small? Is it in your career? Is it in your relationships? Is it in your friendships? Is it how you're showing up in the world? Where are you playing small in your life? The second question, what do I want my dream life or body, right? Because I know a lot of you are here for health and fitness. What do you want your dream life to look and feel like? And I want you to write this in the present tense. So it can look like, I wake up energized and refreshed, excited to tackle my day. I start my day off by exercising and taking care of myself first. I eat a nutritious breakfast. And I want you to just write your dream day, dream life, dream body, write it out as if it is already in existence. The next question, what types of people do I need to surround myself with to foster this kind of environment? What kinds of people? Are they fit people? Do you need to find a community? Do you need to hire a coach or a mentor, somebody who is going to guide you that can bring you into a community of like-minded individuals who are also doing this work? What types of people do you need to start hanging out with to become the person you need to become to have the life that you truly are proud of and want to live? The next question, and this could make you ugly cry. What relationships aren't serving me? What relationships aren't serving me to be living in my highest and greatest good and living a life of my dreams? The next question, what conversations am I avoiding that I need to have? This can be an important conversation with a boss, your partner, your spouse. What conversations are you avoiding because they're going to be uncomfortable, or because you have them, it could shake up and change your life? This is what we need to become aware of and shake your shit up and wake up to, because the relationships that are affecting your mental health are affecting the future of your life. Next question. Where am I lying to myself? Where are you lying to yourself? Are there areas that you may be telling people are going great, but behind the scenes are crumbling and falling apart? There's been so many of these moments for me, right? Where I felt like I wasn't being a good mom. I wasn't being a good partner. I wasn't being a good leader or a boss. And it's so important to get honest with yourself, because when you can get honest with yourself, that's when you can change shit, my friend. Next question. What do I want to stop doing because it drains me? What are you doing out of obligation? Obligation is the most ugly fucking word. What are you doing out of obligation? Is it, out of obligation in your work life, in your partnership? What are you doing that drains you? And how can we get that to be something that you can take off your plate, quite frankly? Next question. What does my gut instinct tell me when I think about my problems? When you think about your problems, your gut, your intuition, that gut feeling is telling you something. Is it, I need to leave this job. I need to leave this career. I need to chase my dream. I need to chase my passion. I need to leave this loveless marriage. I'm fooling myself into thinking it's working. What does your gut instinct tell you when you think about those problems? Does it tell you to leave? Does it tell you to have a conversation, even though it's going to be uncomfortable? Dig deep. This is where the magic happens. These questions are more important than any fucking diet plan that I could ever hand you. Any workout program, any roadmap to your perfect body. These questions are the things that need to be done first before you even think that adding on a meal plan or a workout program is going to fix. Because I'm going to tell you that's exactly how it worked for me. I had to break through so much bullshit before I could step out of being 200 pounds and sick and unhealthy and eating my feelings because I was not doing the real work. And this is the real work, my friends. This is the real work that is going to change not only your life, but your body. All right, next question. Sorry, I got tangenty. What are the same unserving thoughts that I wake up with and repeat to myself? This is a great one to answer first thing in the morning and just bring an awareness to it. Sit with your thoughts and think, okay, this morning I'm waking up and I'm thinking about the fight I had yesterday with my child, my bank account being overdrawn, this bill coming up, right? I'm not saying that these things aren't reality. Girl, I have filed bankruptcy in my early 30s, coming out of a marriage. I have had a multitude of roadblocks and hurdles that I've had to overcome, a lot of them financially in the very first half of my journey. And the only way to create change is to create different thoughts around your current situation. So what are the same unserving thoughts that you wake up with and repeat to yourself? Now, to piggyback on that question, how can I reframe these thoughts? What can I say about these thoughts that is going to change the energy that I'm feeling in the day and feeling less run down and less in a bad mood about things? Next question. What am I truly passionate about? What is something that if you were at a party, a cocktail party, you could sit down and talk to somebody about with passion for hours? That is where your magic lies. Is it a cause that you're very passionate about? Is it a hobby? Is it, who knows? Whatever that is, there's no wrong answer. It could be crocheting for all I care. Whatever you're passionate about. My passion is this shit right here. My passion is telling you that you're in the driver's seat. I'm right here with you. I'm in the passenger seat and I'm going to be your backseat fucking driver. And I'm going to tell you that these are the questions that you need to get really for real with yourself about in order to change your life, because your life is worth living and it's not worth living in a constant state of negativity, lack, and stuckness. Next question. And this is the last one. How can you show up every day as the person that you want to become? What are the things that you need to start doing? What are the changes you need to start making? Start planting those seeds, start taking action, one foot in front of the other, and I bet your life changes. I bet. But the key is, like anything worth having, it takes time, it takes persistence, it takes resilience and discipline. And over time, you will have changed your life one mini micro decision to think differently at a time. Now, if you like this kind of stuff, if you resonate with this, if you're like, damn girl, mic drop, you just read me the right act and I'm here for it, I would be so grateful if you came over to my Instagram, which I'm going to have linked up in the show notes. Hit my Instagram and come and tell me how this episode impacted you and what you're going to do about it. Make a declaration. Give me your personal mantras. I want to know what those are. And if you like this stuff and you want to dive deeper, some resources and things that I love and things that I'm really listening to right now are a lot on meditation and manifestation and really being conscious in your life and making change and being in the driver's seat. And those, my friend, right now, Joe Dispenza is a fantastic one. So check him out over on YouTube. There's some great YouTube videos and they are mind-blowing. And then obviously Kyra Casey, I just had her on the podcast. Make sure to go take a listen to that episode. We'll also link that up in the show notes. She's gone to 18 of Joe Dispenza's retreats and events. I'm currently looking at the calendar to see if I can get into one as well. But this is the work. This is the work that needs to be done for you to really make the changes that you want to in your life. And if, changing your body goals is there for you too, oftentimes this is the work that needs to be done. So always know that I love you. I'm here for you. I am your biggest fucking cheerleader because I know you have it within you to live the life of your dreams, regardless of what society tells you, your old self tells you, or what you may still think to be true. I know you can do it, and I'm here for it. All right? I love you. Now go make some magic.